I'm so upset at the fairy godmother for not coming along and picking up all this garbage. Oh.
You know what? Instead of sitting here watching YouTube videos, maybe I should get up and make a YouTube video. Hey y'all, it's Sean, and today I'm taking the hardtop off my Jeep. Let's get to it. And did I tell you, I'm doing it by myself. It's a perfect day to do it because it's overcast, cloudy, there's a good chance of rain, but the sun's poking through too. But before I can do that, I got to back my Jeep out, turn it around so we can back it back in to use my very sketchy Jeep hardtop lifter. And while it's out, it'll give us a chance to look at just how sketchy this thing is. Alright, so here is the hanging end, right? This is the hook that we're going to attach our lift fixture to. We'll take a look at that in just a second. But if we follow this cable along, oh, this cable double duty has some kind of clothesline. That's pretty sketchy. We'll have to get those off. And then the cable comes right up here. There's another hook where it looks like the ceiling's falling down, but really that's just, well, I don't know. I hope the ceiling's not falling down. And then it comes right down here to what we have, which is basically a Harbor Freight hand crank. So let me tell you just a couple of things about this hand crank here on the wall. Really? So the first thing I would say, again, this is just a cheap hand crank from Harbor Freight. I think they use them on trailers, things like that, like maybe winching up their boat or something along those lines. I'm not actually sure, but it works great for this. Now this 2x4 that you see it attached to is actually I measured out and using a stud finder to find the studs behind the wall to bolt that thing in, and I just used some lag screws, some pretty hefty lag screws to do that. Now another thing about it is obviously you can see I got my paper towel holder, so that's good for washing the windows, and it's also a convenient place to keep my windshield wiping sprays and stuff to keep my windshield clean, because if you got a Jeep, you know you got a flat windshield and you're constantly having to clean your windshield. Now there's one other thing here that we have that we'll see here in just a minute, and it provides a nice little cubby storage space, and that are these S-hooks, because when we get to the really sketchy part, if you're not sketched out already, these are part of the lifting mechanism. A matter of fact, let's take a look at that lifting mechanism that hangs from the hook right now. And here it is. It's basically just a 2x4. I got a little eye bolt here in the middle. It's not little, actually, it's pretty hefty. And then I got some ropes that you can see right there tied through, just held with a knot. It's these ropes that are going to tie onto the actual hardtop. And the way it works is pretty simple. I take this part that's hanging from the ceiling, I clip it in here. I take my ropes, walk those ropes around the hardtop, and then I get over there on the crank and I just start cranking it up. So let me back in the Jeep and we'll see how this works. Alright, so a couple of things I'm looking at whenever I back my Jeep in is I want that hook to be, well, the eye bolt up there in the ceiling. I want that hook or that eye bolt to be basically right in the middle of my Jeep. When it comes to how far back I want it just about 3/4 of the way back, just right here in front of the roll cage inside. So that's what we're shooting for. Getting the Jeep right there underneath that perfect balancing point is very important, because I only have one hook. It's part of the sketchiness of this system. Another thing I want to do is take off these freedom panels and the doors. You don't have to take off the doors, but it makes the process easier. And what's the point in taking the top off if you have your doors on? I'm not going to show the process of removing the freedom panels or the doors. Maybe we'll save that for another video, but for now I'm going to use the magic of video editing to make it happen. Oops, I seem to have taken myself out of the picture too. No, wait, here I am. It's okay. Let's now take a look at how we unscrew from the inside the little screws that are holding down the hardtop part in the back. I got a little turnbuckle screw. Mine are actually aftermarket. There's 3 of them on each side. You don't have to go with these. You can just use the regular ones the Jeep comes with. The reason I like these, there's all 3 of them. The reason I like these is because I can unscrew them with my hand, and I don't need that little tool. I don't need the Allen wrench or whatever to get these off. I can just do it with my hands. And there you go. Just like that. They're all out. Just finger tight. But let me tell you, I got some strong fingers. Alright, next step is to hook on this 2x4 lifter. Just hook it on there. It doesn't really matter which side you got. Not side facing forward or backwards, it doesn't matter. But you want to unwind all these strings. In this case, I got my knot back here, so I'm going to take my, I called it a string, really it's like a tender line for a boat, got it at Home Depot. I'm going to throw those into the cab. Boom. Yeah, I make my own sound effects sometimes. Alright, and I'm going to roughly center it, you know, where I think it should be back here on top of the Jeep. Alright, just so you can see, there's no magic going on here. I just got that 2x4. It's connected up to my hook and pulley system, and I got these things, these ropes, lines, whatever you call them, just hanging down in the cab. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these and I'm going to run them all the way out through the back window. Alright, now before you get all crazy and start throwing these lines to the back, you need to do something first. You need to take your line and you're going to have to lift up on your hardtop here, because you want the line to go underneath only your hardtop. You don't want to hook your roll bar, because if you hook your roll bar, you ain't never getting that hardtop off. Alright, so I'm just going to lift up, shove that line through. Woo! Lift up, shove that line through too. There we go. Now let's walk around to the back and see what we got going on the back side. I'm just going to grab those 2 lines and I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them right here on the outside of the hinges for the glass top. And the reason I put them there is because of the spacing of the holes where I drilled that rope and put that rope through that 2x4. It's just easiest to do it this way. It doesn't put any undue pressure on anything. Alright, so let's look at the magic, how I get this little loop end to attach to that. And this what goes back to those magic S-rings. I didn't call them magic before, but they are kind of magic. So the way I do it is I hook that S-ring right here on the side of the rope opposite the knot, and then I take, let me see if I can get my hand out of the way, and I take my loop here that's in this knot and I just hook it over. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Alright, so this is what it's going to look like. I got my 2 ropes, they run through, not over the roll bar, got to go underneath. Well, you got to go over the top of the roll bar, not underneath it. Both sides are hooked up there. It's attached to my 2x4, goes up to the pulley, up and across. Oops, there's an old eye bolt, because you know nothing's ever perfect the first time. And then back over to my crank. So now I'm going to go over there to my crank and I'm going to start cranking. Alright, I'm all ready to go. I'm just going to start cranking. First thing I need to do is make sure I'm set for lifting and not lowering. And I'm just going to start cranking the handle. And I'm going to go nice and slow while I'm watching this pretty sketchy lift system get some tension on it. Alright, when it gets about right there, I like to go ahead and just kind of lift up the hardtop, just so that I make sure everything's free and everything's going to move just fine without any issues. So let me see if I can do that. Oh, there, I got my helper in the front seat. Alright, so really it's just lifting it up on each corner. It's all loose. We're doing good, so I'm going to crank on it a little bit more. Lulu,
Yeah.
please get out of the Jeep. I don't want to do this while you're sitting in the Jeep. It's sketchy enough as it is, son. All right, so I just keep lifting it. Keep lifting it. It's getting sketchy. All right, now you can see that the hardtop is actually coming off of the Jeep. I'm just going to make sure we don't have anything binding up. We got a little bit of binding right here. Let's go ahead and keep going until we get it all the way up. And we're going to leave it just like that. Now this is a little more askew than I would normally like it to be. And part of that is because I didn't get my Jeep centered just the way I wanted to. But hey, things happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my Jeep forward just a little bit. I'm going to lower this back down. I'm going to readjust where my ropes are positioned. And then I'm going to lift it up again. And that's it. Now let's lift it. Let's let it down. That ought to be enough. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move my rope, my board back a little bit so I get a little bit better balance. Not so much lift in the front. And you can see I just grabbed it and squished it. Well, I didn't squish it. I just kind of shoved it. All right, let's lift it up and see how it's looking this time. So it's a lot more, I guess you could say, level front to back. I'm going to call that good. And I'm just going to try to drive it out just the way it is. Now always pay attention to what you're doing. I need to close this tailgate or this is definitely going to hit it. All right. Well, this is disastrous. I'm not paying attention. I forgot to disconnect the electric wire and the water to my rear windshield wiper. Let me do that real quick. I'm talking about these things right here. Whew. That makes a difference. All right, well there you go. You can tell it's just on the one rope. Well, it's swiveling all over the place. Listen, nothing ever goes perfect. But I have done this many times before. But I have never forgot to disconnect my connections for the rear window. Oh well, first time for everything. All right, so now I'm just going to lower it down. I'm going to lower it down right onto the ground, and I'll show you how I store it. And when I get down here pretty close, I want to make sure two things. I want to make sure it's kind of facing that way, out the front of the garage. If not, I mean, it's not hard or anything to move it. And there you go, that's it. So to take this thing off, it's just like the reverse of what we did earlier. I'm going to unhook that, take my eye hook off, and do the other side too. Once I have that done, I'm going to disconnect my very sketchy 2x4 lifter and get it out of the way. Make sure you put these back so you know where they are when you need to put your hardtop back on. And then I'm just going to close this back glass. So what am I going to use to store this thing? Well, it's right there. It's one of these simple little carts. There's a million YouTube videos on how to build one. That's what I'm going to use. Now I like to use this little concrete step in here to help hold this cart in place while I roll this thing up. But in order to do that, I got to move this a little bit. You can tell it's not very heavy just for moving it around on the ground. Alright, I got it there. Now I'm just going to roll this up and set it on there. I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to be very careful with these hinge covers because these hinge covers can break while you're doing this. But the good thing is you can get replacements for about 10 bucks off of Amazon. Oh, let me get rid of this hanging hook. We don't need that hook there. That's it. And there she is. A real thing of beauty without her doors or her tops. Ready for some summertime fun. And wouldn't you know it, the skies are almost totally clear. They're ready for us to go on a Jeep ride. Well, there you go. My super sketchy hardtop Jeep method. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you think I'm an idiot, subscribe so you can see more in the future. I hope to see you on the next one.